Hello, my name's Tina MacDonald. Thank you for joining me today. Today's counselling conversation is going to be a whistle-stop tour of CBT. So it's Cognitive Behavioural Therapy, and there are some counsellors who only work with this particular theory. As a pluralistic counsellor, I tend to use it in set ways, set sections, and it fits in very well across other theories for me as a counsellor. So again, in one of my earlier videos, I was talking about private practice and why you would choose that. If you were looking for counselling and you went through the NHS, you would probably be given the option to have some CBT. CBT can be quite quantifiable, so it works very well, as in you go in with something, you come out and you're not concerned about that something as much. So that's why it tends to be used in the NHS. Again, just my understanding of it. CBT works on refocusing your attention, as lots of coping strategies do, but with this one it actually works as a set thing. So if you go in with a phobia, you're working on that refocusing your attention of what you believe will happen and grounding it in what potentially will happen in the reality outside of your beliefs. So it's about automatic thoughts, it's about jumping to conclusions, so which is why it works so well with the phobia side of things. So if you were thinking about an event, for example, that could possibly be your trigger. So, and the meaning of that trigger, that's what you believe, that's your interpretation. The consequences of those two are your emotional input and your reaction, physical reaction. So, an example, I'm depressed, I have no energy, I don't do anything, my belief is I'm useless. Okay, so a counsellor would look at these by questioning, because we need to question the meanings around an event in order to look at the consequences. So for example, a counsellor would ask, how do you see yourself as a person? How do you think that others see you? And what would the implications of both of those things be for the future based around this event? So as a counsellor, I believe that the expert in the room is the client, and I would be challenging. I tend to be challenging anyway, because I believe all of the resilience you bring in the room, it's really just my job to mirror that back. So as a counsellor, I would challenge your irrational beliefs, because that's how phobias work, because they are based on being irrational, the emotional content, the physical reaction. So I would help to reframe how you look at the event and what the meanings of that event are and the consequences. So we would be reframing them. Might be the same content, it just might sound, feel, physically reaction in a slightly different way. So the way I tend to use CBT in sections is that often I am looking at scaling. So how are you just before an event, 0 to 10? How are you? Where in the body do you expect that things will happen when the event is in place? When the event is in place, where are you on the 0 to 10? So if it's a social anxiety, I feel that when I'm going into a supermarket, that I will be off the scale, I will be a 10. So together, I as a counsellor, just my interpretation, would be looking at, when does that start? When does that moment happen? When do you go from just before not even contemplating going shopping, I'm at 1 normally, thinking of going shopping, I might be at a 3 or a 4. And as I get out of the car and I approach the supermarket, I might be an 8 or a 9. When I'm in there, I can barely remember why I'm there, who I am, what I came in for. Where along that line does that change of scale happen? And that's the point that I would be offering to work at with you if you thought that was a good place to go. You might already know where the phobia comes from. If you were working purely with CBT, we would be looking at you going to the supermarket, if that's what we were looking at as the event. We would not be looking at, potentially, where it comes from, what we're going to do with it, what's it set in. But as a pluralistic counsellor, and as a private pluralistic counsellor, I would be offering you the option, if you wanted to look at a couple of sessions, to have a look at that. Because if it came once, do we need to look at where it came from in order that it doesn't manifest itself? Same subject, different subject, same scenario, again. And that's the difference. As a pluralistic counsellor, CBT would be part of the way we would work together. CBT also brings with it, generally, in my understanding of it, it would be homework, doing all of your work on the good days so that the not so good days you have some ammunition to fight on the front with, by your understanding of what is happening to you. Sometimes by not understanding that this is a reaction to the blame, the guilt, the not so kind voice come in, rather than actually giving yourself a break. It's fine. It's shopping. It makes you anxious. How can we look at this so that you don't have to deal with the anxiety around this particular event? And then perhaps it's helpful to look at why it started, where it came from. So find a kind of voice for yourself and have a look at the event, the meaning and the consequences, and reframe those. Get the automatic thoughts going to a different part of the brain and working in a different way. That's our whistle-stop tour of CBT, and I hope it was helpful because it gives you perhaps an understanding of, do I purely want to work this way? Do I want to work this way for some of the journey? If you feel that this would be helpful, have a look at the website, have a look at Facebook, subscribe to the channel, and then we can get some other videos across to you. Take care, stay safe. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.